All right. Hi, I'm Deanne Battle, and this is the Composite. We are in season 4, episode 12, I believe. All right. I double check and I write it down, like what episode that I'm up to. And then it's like, as I'm, trying to not be nervous and get this camera going, I always lose my train of thought. So, my voice is going to be a little scratchy. Anyone that checked out last episode, hay fever has been kicking my butt. I'm allergic to like over 30 different things, but one of the main things I'm allergic to are pollen and grass. And so when they're cutting the grass in this area, when we have very, humid weather like we've had, and it's just kind of hovering in the air and the air quality is bad. I'm also asthmatic, so that contributes to it. And so my face swells and leaks and I'm just like, try not to be on a live doing that. So c'est la vie. Okay. So, a few things to talk about today. One of them, I guess you could say, is the main thing, but I don't think I'm going to hover on it too much. I want to start with something fun. All right. So House of the Dragon, this last week's episode from Sunday, or this week, I should say, it was good. It wasn't as rousing as the episode before, but I mean, that doesn't bother me. I know some people are like, oh, it was kind of slow, it was kind of boring, but no, I like the political intrigue part of it, seeing how they attempt to deal with that. So I enjoyed it. And I think I've mentioned this before, the dragons look so much better than they did in the original series. And so there have been people doing all this cool artwork online, showing the different sizes of the dragons and everything, and how like each one has a different personality and different colors and stuff like that, different head shapes. It's really, really fascinating. But I think I would want one of the smaller, faster ones that can kind of like dip in and out. I don't see myself wanting to have like this huge dragon. And so the Vagar jokes today have been especially hilarious. One person, they did like a barbecue flyer and then somebody was like, well, who's going to be on the grill? And then somebody else was like, Vagar. And everybody's like, damn, the meat's going to be burnt. So it was really funny. But I want to give honorable mentions, of the episode. I won't do spoilers really, but Jace and Bela, good episodes for them because they're more secondary, almost tertiary characters, and they don't really get as much screen time, but they were contributing their piece and helping out. So I'm curious to see how it's going to end up, but very great. If you haven't, and I mean, I would say even if you didn't see the original series, I think it's worth, just watching it as a standalone. Again, I think that they're doing a better job with the source material, it feels like. And the reason that I say that is, I think to be fair, it's harder to manage the sheer number of characters that they had in the original series, in, Game of Thrones. And then on top of that, it was the first time that, they had gone through. Now, this set of writers, directors, so on and so forth, actors, they're, building upon, a universe that was already created. So, I guess you could say in some regards it's a little bit easier for them. But I just like the way that the through line for the characters, like you can see when the characters make decisions, you can see when they're hesitating, what their motivations are and stuff like that. I think it's a lot clearer. So, I appreciate that. Excuse me, and I feel like I'm going to sneeze now. So I might not stay on too long, but I didn't want, I've been doing this show long enough to the point where I can say like, let's say I got sick and didn't do the show for a week, like I feel the difference. It feels odd. Like I feel out of sorts. So, even though I wasn't, 100%, I definitely wanted to come on. other things. I saw an article that I wanted to chat with you about. And I saw this about like 30 minutes or so ago. And it says, oh, why is this reloading? Just a second here. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm probably going to sneeze in a minute or so. So this article here is from thebulletin.org. And I'm really hoping that this is a credible website. It looks like it is. Oh, okay, yes. It says, editor's note, this story was originally published by The Guardian. It appears here as a part of the Climate Desk collaboration. And so the article says, because when I first looked at the title, I was confused. I was like, Category 6, what's that? And then I realized, I said, oh no, the title is, the oceans are heating so fast, some scientists call for a new Category 6 hurricane classification. And so it says here, Hurricane Beryl, which slammed into Texas on Monday after wreaking havoc in the Caribbean, was supercharged by absolutely crazy ocean temperatures that are likely to fuel further violent storms in the coming months, scientists have warned. And then I'm going to skip a little bit. There has never been a Category 5 Atlantic hurricane this early in the year before, with most major storms forming closer to September, right? And so we're still in July, and there was a Category 5. So it's kind of like, my understanding is that as hurricane seasons get going, right, as the currents change, as the temperature of the water changes, they increase in strength. So that's one of the reasons why, for those of us that remember Hurricane Katrina, why that was just so devastating, because I believe Katrina happened on August 29th, right? So as we were going from the end of August into September, it was terrible. So essentially they're like, well, if we're at a Category 5 in July, do we now have to, add categories? See. This deadly intensification was aided by unusually hot ocean temperatures along much of Beryl's path, scientists say, with seawater heated by the climate crisis helping provide the storm with extra energy over the past 10 days. Skipping ahead here. While ocean temperatures around the world have been steadily marching upwards as the planet heats due to burning fossil fuels, the past year has been off the charts, according to McNulty, who is a scientist, a climate scientist from the University of Miami. And last year was the ocean's hottest on record, with marine heat waves sweeping 90% of the globe's oceans. This surge in heat has barely paused, with sea surface temperatures records. Sorry, I can't read right now. Excuse me. Let's try this again. Take 2. All right. This surge in heat has barely paused, with sea surface temperatures records tumbling every single day for 12 months in a row until March. All right. Yeah, so basically every single month the ocean's getting hotter and hotter, and it'll retreat for a little bit, but not really. And so that means that the hurricane season, and I believe I've touched on this in previous environmental articles that I've talked with you about, that they want to extend the length of hurricane season, right? Because it's basically, I believe, from mid-June until maybe November 1st, somewhere in there. And so it's like half a year, and they want to extend it and now add, again, a higher category. The persistently elevated ocean temperatures portend a potentially disastrous hurricane season, with the National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration forecasting 8 to 13 hurricanes until November. This is devastating, up from the usual 7. So on average, there were 7. They're saying they're expecting or anticipating possibly up to 13. The onset of the periodic La Nina climate conditions could further propel such storms. Beryl is a worrying omen for the rest of the season, McNulty said. This won't be the last of these storms. And, I really want to send, thoughts and sympathy to folks in Houston that are dealing with the aftermath of Beryl. I really didn't see too much reporting on it, to be honest. I mean, for obvious reasons, and we'll talk about what happened last Saturday in a sec. But it feels like the most pressing issue that possibly could unite us in terms of things that we have to deal with, being global crisis of climate emergency, existential threat, so on and so forth. And we are totally burying the lead on this. And so when I saw this article like 30 minutes ago, I was like, I definitely wanted to talk about it. And this is somewhat of a more extensive piece. I'll definitely post the link to it. But I don't know about how it is where you are, but I'm in, the Northeast here of the United States. And I've gotten a severe weather alert every day for at least the past 2 weeks. Like it's been particularly brutal. This is weather, that I'm used to, but usually again in August, not necessarily at this point in July. And it's been really, really hot in this area. Anything else from this? Okay, this will be the last paragraph. Toward the end of the article, it says, oceans are soaking up vast quantities of human-created emissions and heat, which is shielding people on land from even worse temperature rises, but also warping fish populations, dissolving away coral reefs and shellfish, robbing the seas of oxygen and potentially upending foundational ocean currents. So there are certain ocean currents. Let me look that up, because that was something else that I saw the other day, and the title was so bad. I was like, I can't even read this right now. But certain parts of the ocean, I believe, are going to lose circulation. They're going to lose their currents. Let's see. I'm just going to look it up so you understand that I'm not like just making something up. Excuse me. Okay, yes, here it is. And this is from, now I don't think this is the same exact article that I saw. Sorry, my hair is like wonky. This isn't the same exact article I saw, but it's covering the same issue. And this is New Scientist, and it says, is a vital ocean current just decades away from catastrophic collapse? 2 studies suggest the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation could collapse by the middle of the century and wreak havoc with the climate, but such predictions are controversial. Oh, boo, is this the paywall? That's another thing, too. I mean, I'm lucky because, as a teacher, when you work in any type of academia, like especially like, at the university level or at a private school, A majority of them will subscribe to different periodicals and peer-reviewed publications. So anytime for me, if I see something and it's behind a paywall, like when I have the time, I can just go to like my work accounts and go get either a comparable article, or I can get to the article itself. And, it's really occurred to me in the last couple of years how, we tout the benefits of, the internet, of, everyone has information at the tip of their fingers, but we all don't have access to quality information. And I would say even that concept of what's considered a quality source versus not, I will admit that there are problematic elements of it, because usually what that means is it's just, knowledge acquired to a certain type of academic or, a certain type of institution. And historically, those institutions shut out marginalized people who are often the folks who are experiencing, much of this environmental crisis on the ground. So even that concept is problematic. But as it exists, right, this idea of, media literacy in terms of the quality of data that you actually have access to, it's a thing. And it just occurs to me now every time I see a paywall, like, wow, what if, I only had access, like what if I didn't have a library card and I didn't have access to anything behind a paywall? Then it just really limits your sources and to a lot of propaganda, and propaganda arms of our government, corporations, otherwise. The propaganda is not really focusing on these sorts of stories. They're not reporting it. So let me go back to another source other than the New Scientist, because they're being stingy, which I understand to a certain extent, because journalists have to be paid. It's just like a society, everything operates on people getting their money. And what we see is under this current capitalist model, there's so much that is neglected and falls by the wayside because everything relies on money. I don't know what the way forward is. I wish people had access to better information, because maybe we would have better conversations and talk about more important things. I'm just going to spend like another 30 seconds. If I can't find a alternate source, then I will move on. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Okay. Now, what's interesting, to be fair, is I Googled ocean currents collapse, and then I hit the news tab. So let me show you. I know it's backwards, but you know how you can, right, hit which tab you want. So instead of all, I hit news. And to be fair, Slate is listed here, CNN is listed here, so those are considered major sources. So I guess that they did report on it. It was just from 5 months ago. Okay. All right. So to match the other article I was just looking at, let's go to The Guardian, who also reported on this 5 months ago. It's just, this final season of Earth is a banger, man. I don't know how these episodes will end here. Okay. All right. So again, and they have a little yellow flag warning. This article is more than 5 months old. So what that means, folks, is that anything I read or say in this article, it's probably worse now because we're more than 5 months later. All right. Atlantic Ocean circulating nearly devastating tipping point, study finds. Collapse in system of currents that helps regulate global climate would be at such speed that adaptation would be impossible. I'll read that one more time. Collapse in system of currents that helps regulate global climate would be at such speed that adaptation would be impossible. Right? So even if we woke up tomorrow and said we're going to forget all of the global market, machinations and, all the political rivalries and geopolitical wars and nightmares and genocides and starving people and stealing resources and bigotry and hatred. And if we said tomorrow morning we woke up on July 18th, 2024, and we said that we weren't going to do that anymore, we're still royally, and so that's like a difficult thing to sit with here. Okay, so the author is Jonathan Watts. Sorry, I didn't read the author of the last article. And it says, the circulation of the Atlantic Ocean is heading toward a tipping point that is bad news for the climate systems and humanity, a study has found. Excuse me, my nose is itching. Goodness. The scientists behind the research said they were shocked at the forecast speed of collapse once the point is reached, although they said it was not yet possible to predict how soon that would happen. Using computer models and past data, the researchers developed an early warning indicator for the breakdown of the Atlantic meridional, like meridian, but an adjective. Meridional overturning circulation, they call it AMOC, a vast system of ocean currents that is a key component in global climate regulation. They found AMOC is already on track toward an abrupt shift, which has not happened for more than 10,000 years. Wow, which has not happened for more than 10,000 years and would have dire implications for large parts of the world. AMOC, which encompasses part of the Gulf Stream and other powerful currents, is a marine conveyor belt that carries heat, carbon, and nutrients from the tropics toward the Arctic Circle, where it cools and sinks into the depths of the ocean. This churning helps to distribute energy around the Earth and modulates the impact of human-caused global heating. And then this is a good map that they have here. So see, they are showing you how the heat versus the coolness, how that circulates. So the planet tries to work with us and really tries to offset a lot of the damage that we do. But the problem is there's so much warm current, right? And my understanding is that the warm water, because, it has less nutrients, it has less salt, it rises and it circulates more, and it circulates more quickly than the cold water. But we keep dumping the fresh water in because the, caps are melting and, everything has to have a balance, and we've really thrown the balance off. But the system is being eroded by the faster than expected melt off. Okay, so I got a little ahead of myself here. Of Greenland's glaciers and Arctic ice sheets, which pours fresh water into the sea and obstructs the sinking of saltier, warmer water from the south. Okay. So it obstructs the sinking of the salter, warmer water. I thought that the colder water was saltier, so that is incorrect. It has declined 15%, the AMOC, so this stream, it's declined 15% since 1950 and is in its weakest state in more than a millennium. Wow. and that prompted speculation about an approaching collapse. Just a little more here. Okay, toward the end, it also mapped some of the consequences of a mock collapse. Sea levels in the Atlantic would rise by a meter in some regions. All right, so if you've been watching this show at all, like I've mentioned several times, I'm originally from Far Rockaway, Queens. And Far Rockaway, Queens is not New Orleans, but it is the New York City equivalent of New Orleans. It is a beach area, and it sits where the Jamaica Bay meets the Atlantic Ocean. So I can tell you right now, if a meter of water, like Far Rockaway would be underwater. New Orleans is below sea level, and they're having issues now. It would be underwater. It would be gone. I'm sure parts of Florida gone. It says inundating many coastal cities. The wet, dry season in the Amazon would flip, potentially pushing the already weakened rainforest past its own tipping point. Temperatures around the globe would fluctuate far more erratically. The southern hemisphere would become warmer. How is that possible? Europe would cool dramatically, wow, and have less rainfall. While this might sound appealing compared with the current heating trend, the changes would hit 10 times faster than now, making adaptation almost impossible. And so this would... again, I'll post both of these articles so you can read them more coherently for yourself. But climate refugees, right? Because we've, through technology, through human ingenuity, have made certain parts of the world that were previously uninhabitable habitable. But what this is saying is some parts in the South would be way too hot for anybody to live there. No, it wouldn't be able to sustain life. And some certain parts in the North would be way too cold for anyone to live there. And so you'd have this convergence of people somewhere in the middle when we're already not getting along, when we're already, killing each other and, operating from bad faith, greed, and selfish motivations. You'd have all of that going on, which happens every day, on top of the fact that, we are making the planet unhappy, and she's tired of playing with us. All right, so these past two articles, why share them at this time? Because on Saturday, as most people know, former President Trump was shot. And I was like, wow, because I was still processing it. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. He said, right, he's like, oh, I could, shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. And to be honest, like, after Judge Cannon has, dismissed a case and, the other cases are dragging out, and it just seems like, okay, we just live in a system that's going to let this guy do whatever he wants. And so I was surprised that somebody just, took a shot at him. I was like, oh, okay, this is really the Wild West now. But, I was thinking, like, although this is important, and I am glad that the guy did not kill him, because I think that would have been extremely terrible for my people in particular and for the nation as a whole, in terms of thinking about how enamored his base is of him, and they would be looking for someone to blame and someone to retaliate on. And unfortunately for my people, we are the bottom caste in the United States of America. And so oftentimes, most times, if we're honest, we end up experiencing backlash for things that have nothing to do with us. Like there was a teacher in New Jersey who, I don't agree with what she did, but she posted a not so nice comment about the fallout of the shooting, and a student doxed her. So one of her students basically was trying to get her lynched. Like, what other reason is there to dox somebody? And so these are dangerous times. And so, I'm thinking about the situation. Hold on. Ugh. All right. I was able to make it a half hour in before I had to. All right. Thinking about the situation, and I was like, how do I prevent, falling down a rabbit hole with this? So first thing is to catch up on Game of Thrones, also known as House of the Dragon. Sorry. So do something escapist, right? Take my mind off of it. Do some reading, some cleaning, right? Get myself and my space organized. But then I was just like, also Deanne realized that we have bigger problems. And although most of us choose not to acknowledge how much of a crisis it is, the climate is a crisis for us. And it's just devastating that people are saying that it's already to a point of no return. And there's nothing about the current system that I live under that makes me believe our leaders will choose a different way, will choose a better way. And so I don't know what to do with that information. I want to carry that information in a way that doesn't completely depress me and take away my spirit, but then also carry it with the seriousness it deserves. Meaning, if I understand how finite our lives are here, and that this is basically going to be a mass extinction event, how do I make every day that I'm here count for something? How do I live in connections that are meaningful? How do I give part of myself in service to this world in a way that's meaningful? And I don't know what to do. So, but it was really important to me not to get mired in the whole, like, because people were like, well, this is not who we are as America. We're not violent. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? We have a culture of violence. Our language is violent. Our imagery is violent. Right? Even, our depictions of sex and love are violent. This nation was founded on stolen land with stolen labor from stolen, raped and tortured and maimed bodies. And we've never dealt with that even, right? So the violence is the specter of violence. It's the secret sauce to what makes this work. And I don't say that because I'm proud of it. I'm just, trying to acknowledge what's true. And so it doesn't mean that we condone political violence, but I don't think we should be surprised by it. There was a plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. Nancy Pelosi's husband almost got beat to death with a hammer. And this is within the last 2 years. I don't know, man. I just gotta try to get my hair done next week. I don't know if it's just the humidity from outside. It was looking pretty good yesterday, but, c'est la vie. But yeah, it's not the best strategy, but I was like, okay, let me think of a bigger crisis and a bigger tragedy than the Trump thing, because there is nothing that I can do in terms of the political machine about that. But maybe if just one person sees what I'm saying here or goes to these article links about climate, maybe that's the way to effectuate something. If I were to raise money for somebody that is experiencing, homelessness, or is experiencing, colonialism, is experiencing genocide, maybe that's something that I can do to be helpful. But going back and forth about Trump is just it's not going to do it when so many of us are suffering and when our time is running out so quickly here. So I think what I want to do now is do a spread here and pull some tarot and some oracle cards, and then read a couple of poems, and then read a couple of poems out loud, and then I don't know, meditate or something. I'm still struggling with the meditation thing. When I find a way that I feel works, I'll share it here, but it's just, there's a lot of stuff rattling around in here. And sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, whoa, what was that? It's like, no, that's you. The call is coming from inside the house. So yeah, what do we ask here? Okay, let me write this down. And then I'll tell you what the question is. All right, so it's not a profound question, but what would be a helpful thought, right? A helpful intention, better word. What would be a helpful intention as we try to save our planet, really, and save ourselves, okay? So I think I'll pull a couple of oracle cards, and then I'll pull some tarot cards on top of it. What's a helpful intention, right? And so what I mean by that is, if we're thinking about, okay, we want to save our planet, what's like an intention that we have to have as we're going into that work? And I think this is good timing because I wanted to go live at 5, and then the sky went dark and it started storming, and the signal started messing up. And, a few times last season, I lost like 2 or 3 episodes of the show because the Wi-Fi was unstable. And I was like, we're not doing this with you today. We're not doing this with you. Randy Watson's comeback tour. That's what I call my Wi-Fi network. So we're not doing this with you, Randy Watson. So I was like, okay, I'll wait until 7:30, but it looks like it's about to rain again. So I'll be done in like 10-15 minutes, I think. All right. So what is a helpful intention to have in mind The one thing this Donald Trump situation proves, though, is if somebody want to get at you, they gonna get at you. Like, nobody is safe. And that's crazy because as we move, as we moonwalk from democracy in some sort of form to authoritarianism, that cult of personality is very real. And, propaganda tries to make you feel like these politicians are untouchable and stuff. Apparently that is not the case. Because I was just like, my friend called me. I was like, what did I just see? Like, yikes. Whoa. All right. So what is a helpful intention for us to have in mind as we attempt to save our planet? Okay. All right. Let me maybe pull one more of these. Okay. Oh, wow. All right. So that was from the Angel Answers deck, right? And that deck operates on the premise that if you believe in angels or spirit guides, right, that you can interact with them in a divinational way, and they can give you guidance, okay? And then this deck is called Ask Your Guides, right? So it's a similar principles, but it doesn't use the language of angels. I think this deck is more your like higher self in a self-help type of way, meaning like it interacts, right, with some sort of ethereal spirit, but it's really, this deck here is really based on the premise that if you're listening to your intuition of your higher self, that you can get a message there. All right, so I'll pull a card from here, maybe two. And again, our question is, what is a helpful intention for us to have in mind as we attempt to save our planet? We need to do that. All right. Okay. Interesting. Let's see more. Let's pull another one. See if another one comes out. I like to try to just take the ones that like fly out. Okay. All right. So I got two of those, and I'll show all of these in a sec. But I want to just pull everything, right, so we can maybe try to get a unified message here. And then, tarot, right, being more ancient of a divination system than obviously those other two decks. Those are modern ones. This is just kind of following up to clarify, hopefully. Oh, you know what? I'm so silly. I forgot. Oh, okay. I actually had some tarot cards sitting out for a spread that I did. See, these were sitting to the side here. So now I've got to integrate these. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Should have taken care of that. And I never wrote down what that spread was, so I guess I just lost it. Oh, well. I don't know if you hear that thunder in the background. Man, the planet is not happy. It's just like Mother Earth is like, I'm breaking my foot off in everybody's ass. I'm so through. And it's like, sorry. She's like, no. Had it. All right, so I'll try to pick 3 cards here, right? And again, one more time. This is like, what is it they used to call the absent-minded professor? I'm like the absent-minded, like, oracle card reader here. What is a helpful intention to have in mind as we try to save our planet? Okay, 1. Oh, 2. Thank you. Ooh. Wow. 3. Okay. And we have the Death card on the bottom, right? So the Death card is a major arcana card, and a lot of people freak out when they see this, but if I haven't said it before, all it means is like transformation, meaning like a particular place of where you are in your life right now, or a particular mind frame, a particular way of being needs to die away so you can come into, something else, hopefully something better. Okay, so I'll show you what we have. So from the angel answers, we have improving health and let go, right? Let go. So I'll, skim the book for their meanings. I mean, you can interpret that on by itself, but sometimes like I'll find something that is intuitively inspirational from like the actual book. All right. And then from the Ask Your Guides deck, we've got Compromise and Epiphany, those 2 cards. And then from the tarot, folks, we have the King of Wands, the Strength card, and the Star. I hope I don't get dinged because she got her titty out. I mean, it's just a tarot card. I don't think I have that much of a footprint in social media yet to get dinged for it, but if I do, that'll be a moment I'll report back. Okay? All right. So, from the angel answers, now improving health, right? So that's different. Like, that's interesting because the question is, right, like, what mind frame do we have to like fix this situation? And it's like improving health. It says, the angels want you to know that the health of the person you ask about is going to improve. And Archangel Raphael can help you with that. And you need to make healthier choices in your life. You need to detox, right? So the health of the planet apparently will improve, but we have to change what we're doing, right? Which is why those 2 articles, and not the tangible or physical version of the articles, not even the link to the articles, but the concepts that the articles are talking about. That's why that's important, because it's trying to ring the alarm bell that like we need to change here. Okay, and then this one card, Let Go. The time has come to let go of this situation. Stop focusing on how or when it will be solved or why it even occurred. Don't worry, Source and your angels have everything under control. All right, so if I put these two things together, something we definitely need to keep in mind, folks, is, right, yes, we need to be working on solutions, but we can't get mired in the fact that it's too late, right? We've got to let go. So even if that is the reality, we have to mentally let go of that in order to move forward. That's how I'm interpreting that. All right, now let's look at the Ask Your Guides here. You're a master teacher. I believe I've pulled this card before, for the show. Your master teacher is reminding you that nothing is entirely good or bad. Mentally move towards center, open your mind, look at the situation from their point of view. All right, so I think for this one, for compromise, there's not going to be a perfect way forward, right? We're going to have to let go, literally, right? That's connecting it to back to this one. We're going to have to let go of maybe some rigidity when it comes to saving the planet. I really think that that's a call for us to revisit doctrine, whether it is a doctrine of capitalism that keeps us mired in poisoning the planet, or perhaps a doctrine of environmentalism that is so, sorry, my dog was roaming around, that is so rigid to the point that it's impossible for like the average person to keep up with it. So we have to let go of that. Hold on a second. I'm like building commercial breaks into this thing. Sorry. All right. So that's a compromise card, right? So I think that we'll have to compromise at an ideological level. I think that that's what that's saying. All right. So this one is Epiphany. Congratulations, you're finally getting out of your head and connecting more directly with your soul. The flow of communication between you and your higher self is strengthening daily. Allowing you to directly access your spirit guides, angels, and spirit teachers more readily. I'll only read a little bit more here. Trust your vibes at all times. Your higher self messages, listen to me. Okay. That makes sense. You know why? Because if this is saying compromise needs to happen in terms of our ideological beliefs, and that we need to, right, be more intuitive and listen to ourselves, then those two things together are calling for us to be more practical in the relationship of humanity to this situation, right? Maybe if we're caught in our heads and stuck on the ideas, maybe that's why we can't fully relate to the earth and the animals the way we should, and its animals and, each other the way we need to. That's interesting. All right. So the health of the planet is going to improve, right? But we do need to make changes. We have to detoxify, right? Metaphorically, the planet. We have to let go of, I think, nihilism and futility, compromise ideologically, and then come to that epiphany of there's no separation really between us and our creator. and the planet, right? Because if I'm just operating autonomously, then yeah, I'll just keep polluting. And yeah, I don't care, right, about climate refugees, because at the end of the day, I'm focused on Deanne. But if I come to that epiphany that no, what happens to someone else happens to me, what happens to the oceans happens to me, then I'm automatically going to live in a different relationship with that. Okay, and so we'll wrap up with the cards here. But these were the tarot pulls. So we had the King of Wands. Now, wands are passion, like energy, excitement, action, right? So wands really lead us to act. And so the King of Wands is just very attractive, very vivacious, movement forward, right? So the King of Wands, right, is probably telling us to take some sort of action. Now, what do those actions lead us to? They lead us to strength, so an inner strength and fortitude, and the star, which is hope. All right, so I think the tarot cards here, when we put all of this together, the King of Wands, the Strength card, sorry, I need a bigger camera here, and the Star are saying that hope, like staying strong in hope, right? Not just hope being like, oh, I hope, my candidate wins in November, or oh, I hope the hurricane victims are okay. It's saying that you need to act on that hope, right? You have to have the strength and conviction to move forward with that shit. Like, what does that get you to? All right. So that's the message, if we put it all together, which is really interesting here in terms of how it connects. Let me just summarize, right? So, not don't worry, but yeah, the planet's going to get better. It will improve. But we have to actively help it along. And, right, we have to let go of futility, compromise on our ideals, realize that we're all connected, be passionate about these realizations, and have the strength to, right, remain hopeful, or I would argue have the strength to let that hope become an action. So meaning that you're not acting from a place of fear and desperation, but you're acting from a place of hope. So that's how I interpret what's here. Now, you saw me shuffle and I just, picked it. So that's fascinating. And thank you very much. Okay. Now, as usual, I am going to wrap up with the poems of the day from the Poetry Foundation and poets.org. I'm just trying to clean up a little bit here. All right, trusty iPad. So, from poets.org, we have Aeon Ginsberg, and the poem is called Anyways, I'm Radicalized Now. Anyways, I'm radicalized now. I'm not funding a war if I pretend the money in my taxes are only going toward the roads that are actively collapsing. Did you hear about the soldiers who stole all of those tractors? Did you hear the company that makes those tractors, founded in a country not fighting in the war, was able to brick the tractors before they were at all functional? There are built-in kill switches in our devices. Think about your debts and how much they weigh. U.S. company sends a shipment of bricks equal to the weight of the hard drives they develop to Singapore because they can get away with it. Do you think if the bulldozer used to build the killdozer was an American, it would have been stopped before it was rendered inert too? Maybe the the make, excuse me, try that again. Maybe the make made the autonomy possible. I'm not funding a war, I'm in one. There's no recourse to repair what we own within legality. Amazon acquires One Medical Healthcare. Amazon sells medical information to the police. Ooh. It hasn't happened yet, but the Ring doorbells send footage to the police without the consent and the knowledge of the owners who makes the doorbells. User on Twitter finds out the company that they got their printer from can disable its functionality from afar because their debit card had expired. A friend can have their CPAP machine forcibly taken away from them if they aren't using it enough. John Deere pioneered the addition of remote kill switches being installed in technology, and now the idea of one being installed into a pacemaker is not so far off. Rendering a piece of technology inert is called bricking it. Are you excited to talk to a friend and because of the status of their debts, a brick is weighed into their body? Think about what you owe and how much it weighs. Think about what you give away and where it goes. Think about how much choice you really have, if you have a choice at all. Marvin Heemeyer's choices were diminished until there was nothing left but build. Sorry. I'm just kind of getting overwhelmed by the images in this poem. Marvin Heemeyer's choices were diminished until there was nothing left but to build a killdozer, but even so, he was allowed to build it without the only options he had left becoming bricks. It's called a siege when you decide to wait for your enemy to run out of resources. It's called scorched earth to destroy anything that might be useful to whomever you're fighting against. Who was the first brick at Stonewall? We got past ACT UP, and now you can't get a monkeypox vaccine until you can prove you're a gay man who has sex with other men. Did you know you can be arrested for sodomy still? Did you know some John Deere tractors only work if the same farmer is buying Monsanto approved seed? I've heard that. Marvin Heemeyer said, "It is interesting to observe that I was never caught. Maybe we will get a justified right to repair. Maybe the earth will die before then." Scorched earth. We're in an overwhelming heat wave. We're in the coldest summer of the rest of our lives. They don't make the tools we need to become autonomous anymore because they can ship us our weight in debt instead. What happens when we learn that we can't use our refrigerators because we're late on rent? Oof. What are you going to do if you're trying to shoot yourself in the head and the gun won't go off because your sold healthcare data inform the manufacturer that because of severe depression, the gun you own will become bricked? What are you going to do when you can't do anything else but lower the DIY armor over the caddy of your killdozer only to find it's been rendered a series of bricks? It is interesting to observe that I was never caught. Somehow their vision was clouded. Wow. This is devastating. And that was Aeon Ginsberg. I'll put the name in the comments. And as I'm reading this, one thing that kept occurring to me is that our democracy has a kill switch, and we're in the process of having that shit bricked right now. So, yeah, that's a heavy one. And, just if you're, newer to my broadcast, if you're watching the replay, I pull the poems up the day of, but I never know, if it's going to connect to anything that I'm talking about. And I would say it seems like 7 or 8 times out of 10 when I do this show, everything ends up kind of converging in terms of like the current events and the poems. They really do. So, congratulations to poetry.org and the Poetry Foundation for, it seems like they're really thoughtful and timely about the poems that they're choosing. And this will be the last thing here. And this is by Luis J. Rodriguez. And it says, to the police officer who refused to sit in the same room as my son because he's a gangbanger. To the police officer who refused to sit in the same room as my son because he's a gangbanger. How dare you? How dare you pull this mantle from your sloven sleeve and think it worthy enough to cover my boy? How dare you judge when you also wallow in this mud? Society has turned its power over to you, relinquishing its rule, turned it over to the man in the mask whose face never changes, always distorts, who does not live where I live, but commands the corners, who does not have to await the nightmares, the street chants, the bullets, the early morning calls, but looks over at us and demeans, calls us animals, not worthy of his presence. And I have to say, how dare you? My son deserves a future and a job. He deserves contemplation. I can't turn away as you, yet you govern us? Hear my son talk. Hear his plea within his pronouncement, his cry between the breach of his hard words. My son speaks in 2 voices, one of a boy, the other of a man. One is breaking through, the other just hangs. Listen, you who can turn away, who can make such a choice, you who have sons of your own but do not hear them. My son has a face too dark, features too foreign, a tongue too tangled, yet he reveals, he truths, he sings your demented rage, but he sings. You have nothing to rage because it is outside of you. He is inside of me. His horror is mine. I see what he sees, and if my son dreams, if he plays, if he smirks in the mist of moon glow, there I will be, smiling through the blackened, cluttered, and snarling pathway toward your wilted heart. Thank you, Luis Rodriguez. Okay? So I guess it's apt that it is dark outside and raining again. All right. So I will post these links for you and do the best you can. Okay. This has been The Composite. I am still Deanne Battle, and this is season 4, episode 12. Have a good night.